So, for my fourth reflection, I'll be talking about Carl Rogers and his theories on personality, his concepts and his beliefs, and how they all related to me. Carl Rogers is one of my favorite psychologists because during his lifetime, he was really focused on client centered therapy, self actualization, and unconditional positive regard. And I'll get all into that a little bit later. His beliefs raise a couple of concerns and a lot of things that I noticed throughout my own development that I will also talk about later. So, he was the originator of client centered therapy. And basically, what I think that is when you give your client obviously all of your attention and is reciprocated based on what they say nonstop with positive reinforcement. I feel that that raises their self esteem or heightens their ego to where they can successfully conquer whatever it is that's bothering them. Carl Rogers was the originator of person slash client centered therapy, and therefore it is referred to as a Rogerian form of psychotherapy. However, the original or the official definition of client centered therapy is a non authoritative approach that allows clients to take more of a lead in discussion so that they can discover their own solutions instead of therapists just offering advice to them. So, something that I noticed about that is when my friends are like just talking in general about their lives, or they're seeking whoever it is that they're talking to, whether it be me or somebody else, about advice, what I try to do, I try to say vague but helpful things like, oh, people are like this, or whatever the case may be, so that they can make their own conscious decision without me trying to put too much on the influence of what I think that they should do or how they should handle whatever it is that they're going through. Now, following that is unconditional positive regard. These two, they're pretty much hand in hand with each other. What I feel that positive or unconditional positive regard is, whatever it is that your client is going through, you are not to have any judgments based on whatever. Whatever you say is to be unbiased at all time, pretty much a clean slate. And not only that, you're always helping them positively. Obviously, whatever it is that you tell them will be helping them in a positive way as to fix whatever it is that they're going through. The official definition, according to Psychology Today, is valuing the person as doing their best to move forward in their lives constructively and respecting the person's right to self-determination no matter what they choose to do. This is really big because I know there's a lot of influences that goes on within the media or just in the world in general that tries to sway people to move a certain direction, whether it be looks or whether it be attitude or status, whether it's socio or just economic or whatever the case may be. That is super important. We do not want to lead anyone in any type of way. We want them to make sure they make their own decisions and that they're conscious in whatever decision that they made. Now, following this is self-actualization. Carl Rogers did not originate this. His was actually Maslow, and it goes into his hierarchy of needs. But I will say that Carl Rogers, he did have an influence, and most of the traits did relate to self-actualization. So I'll go ahead and talk about this too. I personally think that this was the most important aspect of his theories and such, and the reason why is because he had a couple of extra things to add other than what Maslow had to say. So, for an example, Rogers believed that our development begins in childhood, and I agree with this. Kids are very influential and can be easily swayed by whatever it is going on in their environment, and whatever that is has the potential to stick with them throughout adulthood as well. So, it is important to instill good beliefs, or at the very least, rational beliefs into children that will carry them into the future. Another thing that he said was that part of reaching actualization including feeling struggle and pain. And I think this is super interesting. Not only that, I think it's true. I know a lot of people who try to hold on to things or try to do things that don't really help them as to avoid pain. And even though everyone has to get to this point on their own terms, it's important to know that struggle and pain is important because it does help in development. We can't all be happy all the time. Not only that, our experiences create biases based off of whatever it is we're going through, whether it be happiness or struggle and pain. A lot of people are very judgmental, myself included. I'm not innocent. But it's important to look past that as well. And another thing that he said was that reaching actualization is never a constant thing. It's not a straight line. It's going to be bumps in the road, and then we have to just be aware that that is the case. Now, my questions and my concerns with this is, what do you do in the case of a person who is having trouble with or does not want to reach self-actualization? And by this, I'm referring to avoiding pain and just avoiding struggles overall. I'm mainly referring to those who abuse drugs or those that are alcoholics. I know there are people that do those things as to avoid pain or whatever their reality is. So how do we help those type of people, and how do we help them move forward with whatever it is that they're going through? Other than that, that is my reflection. Carl Rogers is absolutely amazing to me, and hopefully you can help me answer my questions.